What is up, Nico Nation? Welcome back to the channel. Snap count coming at you today. This time it's the 2026 free agency episode. For all the guys from the Draft Guys podcast, we welcome you to our seasonal NFL news series where we highlight all news surrounding the NFL. And boy, do we have news this week. I'm on the line with my co-host PDunn. PDunn, how's it going?
I'm good, man. I love Snap Count. I love this series. Every time we get an opportunity to do it, it always hits. And this is a really good one. Free agency was crazy. A lot of stuff happened. We have so much to get into, and I am so stoked for this.
It's my favorite time of the season. It's my favorite event on the NFL calendar. Free agency, it's always the best. And that'll take us into our first segment, winners and losers. And I'll start off with the winners of the week. I'm going to go with the Ravens. And that's going to be a crazy thing to say, but the compensation that they gave up for the Maxx Crosby trade that ended up getting negated, we'll talk about it in the next segment. It was high. I remember texting you when it happened. I'm like, whoa, they gave up a lot. They gave up the 14th
Yeah.
overall pick and a pick next year. And then they ended up
Yeah.
getting Trey Hendrickson, which is a high profile pass rusher for none of those picks. So that was a really good thing for them. Really high in the Panthers this week, what they did on the defensive side of the ball. Tariq Woolen, ex-Seahawk, hate to see him go, but he has probably arguably the best landing spot in the Philadelphia Eagles for him. Really, really, really liked what the Colts did, getting their guys under contract, and then the Raiders just a master class using their cap space. Pete, talk to me about the losers.
Yeah, I mean, to pivot off the Raiders, as much as they killed their free agency, and I couldn't agree with you more, they did a great job there. It was tough with the Crosby trade. You know, you have such a great opportunity to get so much compensation. You talked about the Ravens, like it was almost too good to be true for the Raiders and what they got back, and that didn't go through. And so naturally, that's going to be tough. Again, talking about Crosby himself, you know, an opportunity to have a bit of an upgrade with the organization you're playing for. And so to end up back in the situation, that roller coaster of emotions, it's going to be interesting to see if that carries over this year, if there's going to be some sort of drama, resentment on either side of that equation for what happened. Patriots, you know, coming off a Super Bowl run, coming up short, I was expecting to see more out of them in free agency. They weren't at a shortage of money to spend. They had the ability to get some bigger named guys, fill out that roster a little bit more, and they didn't. And so I think it's interesting the way that they manage that cap. I'm not a huge fan of it. Definitely think they're one of the losers. Browns, I think they blew it on the offensive line. They needed bodies and they got desperate. They spent way too much money. They spent way too much money on players that were not worth the money. These are 3-year deals for most of these guys that are older, that you're expecting to take a step up and improve on their game in order to be able to match the compensation that they were granted in these contracts. I don't think any of these guys are going to be able to do that. And so maybe you hit on one, but when you sign 3 guys to big contracts, that's going to be tough. And then finally, Seahawks. You know, they had a lot of guys they were looking to retain. Kenneth Walker, Tariq Woolen, both those guys hit free agency and they left. And so I think that was intentional. I think you know, you are obviously big Seahawks guy. There was some numbers that they weren't willing to meet. At the end of the day, though, when you lose production like that, you're gonna end up being one of the losers for me.
Of course, it's always hard when you're the Super Bowl champion. You're going to get your guys taken from you. But at the end of the day, you're just going to recoup that. And I think that they have a plan with what to do. Maybe signing JSN, maybe signing Witherspoon to long-term contract extensions so that they don't have to worry about it next year. But we'll talk about a situation that needs to be monitored this year. It's the Maxx Crosby trade. And PDunn, for all the people who don't know, can you explain exactly what happened?
Yeah, this was a blockbuster. This was one of the biggest trades we've seen in the last few years. One of the best players in the league, one of the best pass rushers, got dealt to a team that is ready to compete now. You know, the new head coach, you know, Lamar Jackson in his prime. You know, this is a roster that's ready to compete, ready to win. And they went and they thought that they were adding, you know, one of the best players in that final piece to be able to finally make that Super Bowl push that they've been wanting to, and it fell through. Unfortunately for the Raiders. The Ravens got cold feet, and they say that he failed his physical. I'm sure that there's some, you know, validity to that. I don't know how valid it is. I think that they chickened out. They got cold feet. They didn't want to give up 2 first round picks for a player that's, you know, in his prime, but not going to be in his prime for much longer. And they got cold feet and they bailed. And so Really interesting. I cannot tell you a time I've ever seen anything like this happen before with this magnitude of a trade. Really, really fascinating situation. Like I said, it's going to be weird to see whether he gets dealt again. Rumor is that he's still on the market. Raiders are still looking to move him. They're willing to move him for the right price. I don't think they're going to get two first round picks again. The runner up bidder was the Dallas Cowboys, and they are reportedly no longer interested. It's going to be fascinating to see what compensation he goes for and how much of a letdown it's going to be if he goes for only one first round pick or he goes for a first and a second compared to what the compensation they were going to get.
If there's anybody worth it in the NFL, it's definitely him for those picks. He's a top 10 player. But at the end of the day, we joke around, free agency started on quote Monday. That's the legal tampering period. And then Wednesday is when the official signings happen. And that's exactly why they let them talk about it and then they make sure that they pass their physical. And obviously that didn't happen. But you're telling me that you don't believe it's a physical related thing?
No, I don't think so. I think they got cold feet, man.
Wow.
I think they got cold feet. I think they were nervous. They spent too much time thinking about it. And they said they made the right move. I mean, this is you're telling there is no world where you'd rather have Max. If I could give you Max Crosby or I could give you Trey Hendrickson and two first round picks, there's no way you're taking Max Crosby. You're taking the picks and you're taking Trey Hendrickson. And so I think they understood there's some different capabilities, different ways we can go about this for the same amount of cap, about the same cap hit, and keeping the first round picks. And so I think they got cold feet. I think they made the right decision. I don't know if there's going to be an investigation into this. I'm not sure if something's going to happen. But this is a fascinating situation.
I don't even know because obviously the Raiders went out and they had all the money to start, but they spent it. And him going back into the cap situation, I think they'll be okay. But it's kind of messed up and wrong. Very interested to see.
Yeah.
Like PDunn said, if anything happens on the Ravens front, we'll talk about a few more moves that happened this week. Obviously, Michael Pittman got dealt to the Steelers for 2026 sixth and seventh round pick exchange, of course, with him in it. And then Minka Fitzpatrick ends up going to the Jets. Two of my favorite moves. I really like the Fitzpatrick move. For seventh round pick, you're getting an all pro safety in a team in need for the Jets and a place in need. Unbelievable for the Jets. I really like how Michael Pittman Jr. is going to fit right next to DK Metcalf. They desperately needed a receiver too. They finally have the receiver too. For nothing. They gave up literally nothing. They've swapped picks for him. I mean, this is unbelievable how when it comes down to it, before they become cap casualties, they basically trade them for nothing. They try to get something for them, and you're ended up getting all pro players and Pro Bowl level players at pennies. It's crazy to say.
For another team that really needed a receiver, I love the move that the Bills made getting DJ Moore. As a Bears fan, I hate to see him go. This was obviously one of the better players on our team over the last few seasons. He's a great receiver. And I think he's going to fit well in that offense. They need some more guys. Josh Allen needs some more weapons. And I think it's going to be a really good one. They gave up a lot. It's almost interesting seeing the compensation for Pittman compared to the compensation the Bills gave up for DJ Moore for pretty comparable players, I would say. I mean, they're not that much different in skill level. I think that they gave up a lot. I think it was worth it though. You have to capitalize on this Josh Allen like time period you're in. You're not gonna have the capability you have right now to go and win. And they did. I like the McDuffie pick too. You want to talk about going all in? The Rams are all in. They are all in to with this Stafford window to go get a Super Bowl, win this season. That was by far the biggest weakness on their team last season was their secondary and specifically their corners. They had a good safety room. Their corners needed to be upgraded last year. And boy, did they get a good corner. Trent McDuffie, one of the best players in the league, deserves all the money he's getting. I mean, just been an absolute dog for the Chiefs the last few years. He's going to be doing just the same thing for the Rams. I like the pick for both sides. The Chiefs get an extra pick. The Rams, go get yourself a Super Bowl.
They get a bunch of picks also. They get a 2026 round five and round six pick and a round three in 2027. I remember texting my dad when it happened, and I was like, man, the Rams are allergic to their picks. They've had 10 first round picks that they've traded away. The one that they've kept in the last 10 years was Jared Verse. And that tells you all you need to know. But they're still at number 13 this year on the clock from that Falcons trade. So it's crazy to think. Obviously, we had some others that kind of got traded. Rashad Gary ended up going to the Cowboys. That could be an underrated move. David
I
Montgomery, a
agree.
few days before the tampering period, he ended up going to the Texans, which that could be really interesting to see him paired with Woody Marks. Of course, you're looking down Teron Johnson, ended up becoming a Raider. And of course, Jermaine Johnson is now paired up with Robert Saleh and the Titans. PDunn, out of those four, is there one that you like better than the others?
I love the Jermaine Johnson Tavondre Sweat swap. I think both of those players are getting in new situations where they're going to fit really, really well. The Sweat move is going to be awesome for the Jets. They needed a new defensive tackle. That room was bland going into this offseason, and they just got a dude that's going to be able to play a lot for them and give really, really good reps at that nose tackle position. And Jermaine Johnson paired up back with Salah. His best years were when Salah was the head coach as a Jet. They needed a good edge rusher. I think he walks in and is one of the better ones on that team. And I think he's going to give really, really good reps. I love the pick for both sides.
I absolutely love it as well. Speaking of jersey swaps, we'll move into our next segment, literally called Jersey Swap Generator. And we got some guys on this screen, on this list, who are our favorite picks and just really landing spots for these guys throughout this free agency period. And we'll start with P Dunn here on this left side.
Yeah, Jalen Phillips, Panthers killed this free agency cycle. They didn't get a lot. They didn't need a lot of players. They went for the quantity or quality over quantity, and it hit. I think it's going to be really, really good going into the season. I think he's one of the most underrated edge rushers in the NFL right now. I've talked about this in our free agency episode. This is a guy struggled with injuries, hasn't been healthy. When he's healthy, he's a dog. And you saw that with the Eagles this season. He was good with the Eagles, like even in limited usage. And so I'm very high on what he's going to do. It's a big contract, 4-year deal. It's going to be interesting to see whether he's going to be able to play at his prime for all four of those seasons. How much he's going to be stay healthy is the biggest key for me there. Tariq Woolen, 1-year deal, a lot of money. Good for him. This is a really good fit for him. I love the way he's going to fit into that Eagles defense. Pair really well opposite Quinyon Mitchell. Secondary is loaded. It's a good deal. I think I don't know if he'll be on the Eagles after this year, but I think if he has another good season, gets back on his feet, I think he could get a really big payday next year. I was surprised he didn't get one this year. I think he'll be in the running for one next year. And then finally, Trey Hendrickson. We talked about it before. I think this dude is going to be awesome as a Raven. I think finally getting a change of scenery. There's rumors he's not a great teammate. There's rumors this and that. I don't care. Dude's a dog. Bengals, worst organization in the league. Get a really good football player out of the worst organization. Get a organization. I think he's going to be really, really good for this team.
We'll see if Shamar Stewart ends up his calling card and steps up. Maybe Miles Murphy too, because he's also been a bust. It's unfortunate for those Bengals. We hate them. But I'll piggyback on the Tariq Woolen real quick. I was shocked. I think this is an amazing pickup for the Eagles. 1 year, $15 million. That's a risk for Tariq Woolen on his end. It's not a risk on the Eagles end because they're just a year or two removed from a Super Bowl. So they're still in contention, really, and they really want to see what they can do. I'm very shocked, though, with a regressing Reek Woolen from when he was a rookie. He really needs to step it up this year to get that payday. I'm shocked he didn't get the payday in the slim margin, especially after you had him as the number one rated corner in this free agency class. That's super interesting. We'll go back here and looking at Kyler Murray to the Vikings. I think it's one of the best moves of this free agency period because he goes to KOC and he's going to have his career revived. And I think he's going to make this Vikings team a playoff team because they were 9-8 last year with 4 quarterbacks. And that tells you all you need to know. And he has the traits, he has the intangibles. He's been on a terrible Cardinals organization. So I'm so excited to see Kyler Murray in a winning culture. And that's going to be just amazing to see. That division is going to be unbelievable. Looking at the
Oh,
Packers,
yeah.
the Lions, the Vikings, and the Bears. Are we serious? Moving on, Geno Smith. We have a lot of Jets fans that watch the show, a lot of family. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell you the Jets did the right thing. This is the best thing the New York Jets could have done this offseason. They didn't tie themselves up into a Kyler Murray deal. They didn't give the house to Malik Willis. No, they went in-house. They went former guy, Geno Smith, sign him 1 year, move on, just develop. it's going to be a bridge year for you now. Maybe you can get another quarterback in. But if you're in terms of winning, this is your best opportunity of winning with somebody while preserving the future. I love that pickup for the Jets. It was actually a trade, I think. It wasn't a signing. I think they got a seventh round pick in exchange, but it doesn't matter because the Raiders are the second team or the third team here that I have. And Nakobe Dean, sleeper signing of the year right here. Middle linebacker going to go straight into that defense, and he's going to do great things. I'm super excited for him. Obviously, they paired him up with Quay Walker, and the Raiders went all in. So that defense is going to be really interesting. You're in a division with the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Chargers. You have to play defense. Might as well go get a great green dot linebacker.
Dude, I can't echo what you said about the Jets enough. I mean, for an organization that has had so much turmoil for such a long time and has been constantly clowned on the decisions they've made, this last few years, I've been very impressed. I've been very impressed with the way they've drafted. I've been very impressed with the way they've handled free agency. I was very impressed with what they did at the deadline last year. This is another decision they've made where they're taking an account of where their roster is right now, and they understand they're not in a winning window. And you go and you say, okay, here's what we could do. We could give up all of this money to go get Malik Willis, like you said, right? And we're going to try and create a winning window for ourselves that doesn't exist. That doesn't work in the NFL. Instead, they're taking Geno. They're going to say, okay, let's get a good veteran quarterback in here. And then we're going to go draft a quarterback next year. And we're going to prepare for the future. We're going to go invest in the next 10, 15 years rather than investing in the next 2 to 3. And that's how you build an organization. And that's a really great way of doing things. Speaking of pretty great organizations, Patriots, I really like the Romeo Dobbs signing. I think he's going to be walking in the door, no brainer, their best receiver in that room. They signed him to a big contract. This is a guy that I think is probably worth less than what they gave him, but they needed a receiver in that room. Drake May, you need to get him another weapon. I think they're going to invest in the draft to get some weapons for him too. Um, you know, Isaiah Likely, speaking of weapons, love it. Couldn't be much higher on it. Probably my favorite signing of this offseason. I am so excited to see him in a Giants uniform. Excited to see him paired with Dart, with Scadaboo, with Neighbors when he's healthy, whatever weapon they get in the draft. That offense, from where it was 2 years ago to where it is now, oh my gosh, that offense is fireworks. It is going to be so much fun to watch those guys ball together.
Don't want to be that guy, but there's four people on this list that I called. Looking at Kyler, looking at Geno, looking at Romeo Dobbs, looking at Isaiah Likely. Be on the lookout for that reel that we're about to send out about all of the players that me and PDunn predicted correctly because it was a really good free agency for us. But we'll move into our specialty, our mock drafts, our draft segment. PDunn, you're on the clock. It's your mock draft 4.0, the post free agency version. So all of these picks and all of this concept has been taken from what the teams have done after free agency. PDunn, you're on the clock.
This is fun. This is pre-free agency. You kind of are doing a lot of guessing because you don't have the full picture of what this roster is going to look like on draft night. And we still don't. There's a couple free agencies that are lingering. There's a couple trades that are going to happen. For the most part, we have a really good understanding. I feel like I'm starting to pick up on a lot of this draft stuff. And I feel really, really good about where my head's at on what these teams are going to end up doing. Fernando, not even going to talk about it. Arvell Reese, I think we're getting to a point where I'm not even going to talk about that either. This feels like a lock to me. I am the most confident out of that pick than any other pick in the draft that Arvell Reese is going to end up a Jet. And I think that steam is only picking up from now. And if I wasn't going to say Arvell Reese, I was going to say Jeremiah Love. Every time I open Instagram, every time I open ESPN, every time I open Bleacher Report, it's another report that the Giants are high on Jeremiah Love. He's the number one player on their board. I feel like they're just publicly broadcasting that now with the way that they're talking about it. The rumor is that they're going to jump up. They are super high on drafting him, and that's what I have them doing here. The Cardinals need to trade down. They need to collect some assets, and they get that here. Sonny Styles, looking at what the Titans did in free agency, they did a lot of investing on every single position on that defense. They did a good job getting new corners in that room. They did a really good job loading up a defensive line. They got a lot of new bodies in that room. They didn't sign any linebackers. And I think that's telling. There is going to be a need in that linebacker room. And Sonny Styles, I think, is the best player in the draft. And so if you get him at 4, you get him in that Robert Saleh defense. I mean, chef's kiss, bro. Like it's awesome. Francis Mauigoa, getting back to the Cardinals. Another, looking at this free agency, they signed a lot of offensive guards and they have a good left tackle. They didn't sign any right tackles, and there's a hole at right tackle. And I think they're going to end up going Mauigoa. I think if they're willing to trade down, like the Giants moving up to 3 to get Jeremiah Love. I think that they're going to do that, and I think Mauino is a plug and play right tackle for them. Again, is he a guard? Is he a tackle? I think he's a tackle. I think he starts at tackle. I think he could be a really good guard for you. I think they're going to start him at tackle here. Monroe Freeling, we're not going to talk about this one too much. Talked about this previously. Browns, they didn't get any tackles. They got a lot of guards. They got a right tackle and they got some guards. I think that left tackle's open on purpose. I think they're going to take Montgomery Freeling at 6. Jamal McCoy, another team that had a lot of money going into free agency. The Commanders spent a lot of money on a lot of levels on that defense, except for corner. And I think that's intentional. I think they're going to end up going corner here. Is it McCoy? Is it Delane? Is it Terrell? If he's high on their board, we've seen them take corners higher on their board than it hasn't gone well for them, but in the past they've taken some corners that they're higher on. I think this is going to be McCoy. I think he's going to go higher than people think. Interested to see how those medicals check out, obviously. Moving down the board here. Where should we start? I like Delane at 9. I think the Chiefs are going to end up going corner. Seems pretty self-explanatory with the way they've handled themselves lately. Let a corner walk in free agency, traded a corner, didn't really replace him in free agency. I think this is going to end up being a corner. I think it could be Terrell. I think there's a chance that they could take the third corner off the board at 9 if he's not there. I think they're pretty locked on at corner. Um, I'm gonna keep mocking Ty Simpson to the Rams. I'm gonna keep doing it. I feel like this is they put their card in to take a all in when trading. I think they're gonna take and invest in the future. That's what organizations do, and I think that's what they're gonna end up doing. Moving down the board a little bit here. Caden Proctor at 22 is an interesting one for me. I spent a little while on the Chargers trying to figure out what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to go Spencer Fano or whether I wanted to go Caden Proctor. And I took Caden Proctor because I think that the flexibility he provides, with the way that Harbaugh wants to build an offensive line, I think he fits that mold better. Just more of a brawler. Obviously, he's a tank. Spencer Fano is a little more polished. I don't think he carries weight well. We've talked about that before. I'm not super high on him, and I think Proctor fits what Harbaugh's looking for more. Eagles invest in the trenches. Seems like what they do every time. They take the best player, maybe not always, the best athlete, but the best. He's a really, really good player. Lemon at 24. They went offensive line at 6. I think they're going to go receiver offensive line. They either go receiver offensive line or offensive line receiver in this draft. And I had them. I think Lemon's a really good value at 24. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 pick. I feel like that train has left the station. This is a good value if you can get him in this range. Peter Woods at 25 for the Bears. As a Bears fan, I would be thrilled if this is what ends up happening. We need some pass rush on that interior. He's a 3 down guy. I cannot believe that there's reports that he is a second round grade on some NFL teams. I'm not there. I can't see that. He's a top 20, 23 player in this draft for me right now. I think you trust the upside that he's shown in the past. KC at 26, if he's ever there at that position, he's getting taken in my mock drafts. It's one of my favorite landing spots for any player in this first round. They need a separator. DJ Moore, really good receiver. Other guys in that room, they have some good receivers. None of them can separate the way KC can. They need someone that is going to be a field stretcher. Honestly, DJ Moore, Khalil Shakir, there's a similar skill set there. Keon Coleman, he's a big X, but nobody has the skill set that Casey does. I would love that pick. Kristen Miller at 28. Dude, I heard somebody say the other day, like, he is the least talked about really good player in this draft. And I think that's true. No one wants to talk about this guy, and I don't understand why. He's really, really good. He needs to have more hype. He needs to be talked about more. TJ Parker at 29, just a really good value. I thought about Ruben Bain at 9 for them. I would rather have Delane at 9 and TJ Parker at 29 than Ruben Bain at 9 and Brandon Cisse at 29 or those combinations. So I think this is the right move for them to go corner early and get in the trenches later. Sadiq at 30. I mean, he's a Bronco through and through. If he makes it here, him in that offense would be awesome. And then I rounded out with Jacob Rodriguez at 32. I think he's starting to get to that point where we're going to start talking about him as one of the better linebackers in this draft and as the first round prospect. I was him. It was Anthony Hill for me. Thought about going corner, especially with the Tariq Woolen departure. Brandon Cisse was a guy that I was really looking at, really athletic, man-to-man corner. Seems like he'd fill that Tariq Woolen role really well. I couldn't pass on Rodriguez. I think he'd be awesome in this defense. I think he'd be awesome in that system. Um, yeah, what stands out to you? What's the biggest shock you see on here right now?
I see Ruben Bain going at number 11, and it's not really a shock to me, but if you told us that at the beginning of the draft cycle, we would be shocked because he was, consensus top three player in this class, and now he's kind of dropping. I mean, is that something from his hand length or arm length? Like, we don't know, but man, if they can get Ruben Bain at 11, that would be an unbelievable steal. Really like Caleb Banks going to the Ravens. I mean, that would be a really great spot for him. Dylan Thieneman, you're going to see in my mock draft in a few seconds. He's also going to the Vikings at 18 to replace that Harrison Smith role. Yeah, it's really good all around. Avion Terrell to the Panthers at 19. Big fan of that. Yeah, man, this is a really solid mock draft. And I'll kind of go into mine a little bit. Very similar first five picks. PDunn hasn't seen it yet, but I'll talk about it right now. It's going to be Mendoza. It's going to be Arvell Reese at the 1-2. And then we're going to roll in. I think Maui Noah, the Cardinals, I've debated here going Ruben Bain, but you got to go tackle. You have to answer it. I think in a perfect world, they trade back, but they don't have any suitors. However, if you do look a little bit harder, I have them trading up to 21 to go take Ty Simpson. I think Ty Simpson is
Mm,
an Arizona Cardinal. After everything that they've gone through in this free agency, they didn't make a push for a quarterback. I don't think Brissett is the long-term answer. Ty Simpson will be that guy, and they'll come in and trade with the Steelers to make that happen. I have Jeremiah Love going number 4 overall to the Titans. I just think that they need an explosive player, and they did not address a very slow running back room with Pollard and Spears, and just go get the best player available on the board. Sonny Styles would be on the board, but you go take Jeremiah Love, game changer. And that's why Sonny Styles is going to end up falling to the Giants. Yes, you got Edmonds, but you also need to build for the future, and you can put Sonny Styles really at any of those positions, and he will be a thriving linebacker in their linebacker room. Carnell Tate going to the Browns. Yeah, they did absolutely nothing to help that room. At least they tried to help the offensive line. They did nothing for the receivers. It just tells me that they're 100% taking Carnell Tate if he's there. Caleb Downs going to the Commanders at 7. I'm just a big fan of it. They really need secondary. Like you said, they didn't do anything for the corners. They did very little for the safeties. He could play nickel. He can play really any of those positions. Throw him on this defense and see what happens. Ruben Bain falling all the way to 8 to the Saints. That's a match made in heaven for the Saints team that desperately needs pass rush. I'll look around a little bit. Keldrick Folk to the Cowboys at 12 is, I think, my favorite pick in this entire draft that I just done. I mean, just an unbelievable specimen of a human going on that line with Quinton Williams, Kenny Clark, and the boys. Rashard Gary, obviously, Ezra Rock, who's there. I mean, that's just a really good defensive line. Looking at the list, Mekhi Lemon going 16 to the Jets. Not a big fan of Mekhi Lemon, but I think he would be a really good Jet if he ended up falling there. Spencer Fontaine is going to come to 17 for this Lions team, which that's just really good value. You got to take him. Kenyon Sadiq going 19 to the Panthers, giving them multiple dimensions in their offense. Looking down the list a little bit, Casey Conception. Now, this is where I played around. I had Zachariah Branch going here. I had Casey Conception going here. I went back and forth. I decided Casey because of the skill set. I think that AJ Brown, you'll see in the next segment, is gone. That'll be a
ooh.
shock to you. Caleb Banks going to your Bears, PDunn. Yeah, I think if he's there, you take him. And that's just an unbelievable match made in heaven. I know you love Caleb Banks. That's going to be a really good pairing. Looking down the list, and they just got dogged, bro. I mean, if you look at these last 4 picks and you're like, man, these guys are going at the end, that would be crazy to you. Akeem Mesidor going to go to the Chiefs team who always takes edge late rounds in their previous drafts, and they're never really that good. This time you get a way better, higher floor edge rusher, if you will. Zachariah Branch is one of my favorite mock. I love mocking to the Denver Broncos in general. It's just amazing. I mean, whether they go Sadiq, whether they go Branch, it's a match made in heaven. Just add to that offense. It's going to be great. And Cassius Howell, if the Seahawks can get Cassius Howell at 32, I would be a really big fan of it. PDunn, anything that stands out to you from this mock?
Um, where do we start? I actually really like that we're, kind of zeroing in on these top five picks. It feels like this is starting to get to a point where, like we were talking about, we're starting to understand this is where this is probably going to go. I would be shocked if the Cardinals don't end up with wherever they take that first pick if it's not an offensive lineman. Echoing exactly what you said about Falk to the Cowboys. Love it. Such a great pick. Such a great spot. Thieneman to the Vikings. I tried to think about where else I could go with that pick. I thought about Terrell. I could not convince myself to go anywhere other than him at that pick. It seems like such a great spot for both sides. He seems like a plug and play in there. Um, what else is interesting? I think if the Browns could end up with Freeling at 24, I think that'd be great. I don't think he's going to make it there. I think he's going to end up being the first offensive tackle, true offensive tackle off the board. I think he'll be a top 10 pick. We just see these tackles do this every year. They take the freak athletes, and sometimes they work really well, and sometimes they don't. When you said Caleb Banks to the Bears at 25, like I visibly pictured myself watching the draft, running around my living room, jumping for joy about how excited I would be if that happened. He is my favorite player in the class. Going to my Bears would just truly be a match made in heaven. Like I could not be more excited if that was to happen.
It's unbelievable. It's just a great day to be able to do these mocks. It's always great when we get to do them after free agency, like P Dunn said. I mean, it just everything's a lot more clear. And we'll go
Yeah.
into our final segment here, the aftermath, and we'll talk about our bold predictions. We'll start with P Dunn and we'll go every other. So P Dunn, talk to me about your bold predictions for 2026.
I think Trey Hendrickson's going to have his best season he's ever had in his career. I think this is going to be his not coming out party because he's been a really great player for a long time. But I think this is going to hit, he's going to hit another peak here. Like I said, being freed from an organization like that, getting into a really great organization where you have good players around you, good players on that defensive line, and a really good scheme. Jesse Minter is going to know exactly how to use him, and it's going to be really, really fun to see what he does. He's going to do damage in that division this year.
Speaking of damage, we're going to get a second career draft night trade for AJ Brown because he's going to go to the Patriots for a round one pick. It's going to be crazy. They're going to basically trade the 31st overall pick. Patriots are going to get it
Yeah.
done, and it's going to be a match made in heaven in general.
I think Wandale Robinson kills it with the Titans this year. I think he's going to be awesome in that offense. You've got an offensive coordinator that knows how to use them. Brian Daboll knows this guy pretty well, and with Cam Ward finally having someone in this offense this year that's a true weapon, I think he's going to produce really, really good. I think he's going to be awesome in that offense. Cam Ward finally is going to have someone to throw the ball to that's actually competent.
Speaking of that Titans train, I think they win the AFC South. That'll be as bold as it gets. They're going to do the turnaround that the Commanders did and that the Jaguars and the Patriots and the Bears did and the Texans did a few years ago. That's going to be the Titans in 2026. Weak division as it is. I think the Jaguars are really frauds. I don't see the Colts making any splashes or head waves. And yeah, I mean, I just think it's the Titans year.
I think Isaiah Likely is going to be awesome for the Giants. Like I talked about before, I think he's more of a receiver in this offense. He's going to be really great as a receiver in this offense. They're going to know how to use him. And I think he's going to be the second leading receiver on the team behind Neighbors. And then I think he's going to lead the team in touchdowns and receiving touchdowns. I think he's going to have a monster season. He's always kind of been in the shadow of Andrews, and he's, kind of, Lamar, can you really do a full functioning passing offense? Like they really rely on the run game there. That's not the case in New York. He's going to be the guy behind Neighbors. That he's going to be the second receiver. And I think there's a reason the Giants let Wandell go is because I know that they're going to get that production out of Isaiah Likely.
Maybe they don't take a wide receiver at number 5 because of this selection. He's going to be Jackson Dart's best friend. We'll talk about selections in the top 5. I believe after this free agency, it's crystal clear that, like I said in the last segment, Ty Simpson is 100% an Arizona Cardinal. There's no world where he is not a Cardinal. If there's a team that needs him, it's the Cardinals, and they're going to get it done, whether it's taking him at number 3, whether it's trading up to a spot like I had in my mock draft. I don't think he leaves the first round without the Arizona logo on his hat. I just think it's a match made in heaven. They have to get it done. They need a quarterback. They
Yeah,
have to get a quarterback. So you might as well get the second best quarterback in this class. I just think it's going to happen. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll always be coming back to this. And maybe we'll go back to the 2026 recap, which was our previous snap count, and we'll look back at terrible takes. And maybe one of these will be a terrible take that we'll put on the superlative list. But that'll be it for today. Snap count, free agency edition. We thank you guys so much for tuning in. PDunn, it was a good one, man. And I appreciate
really
you
good.
for being here with me. And thank you to all the fans who are watching. Stay tuned. We got big boards coming. We got spin the wheel mock drafts coming. We got
Woo.
very, very niche and new content coming your way. You want to see it. You want to be stay tuned. So thank you guys.